Welcome to today's Startup Experiment Daily video, where we are diving into one of the most fascinating startup conflicts of 2025. This is the story of a 100 billion AI giant, a 10 billion startup, and how just two employees nearly destroyed their relationship. What makes this story so compelling is that it reveals a dangerous trap that every startup founder needs to be aware of in today's AI ecosystem. By the end of this video, my hope is that we all get to understand the strategic chess game being played between Anthropic and Anysphere, the two companies that we are talking about today, and the lessons we can apply to our own businesses. Hi, I'm Dr. Onia Obed, and I have one goal: to build a $1 billion startup one day. So I've decided to learn from every startup I can, the $1 billion winners like Anthropic and Perplexity, the rising stars like Cursor, and even the ones that failed. I analyze their strategic decisions, their competition tactics, their pivots, because I believe that every startup has something to teach us. This is Startup Experiment Daily, where we study all kinds of startups to build better companies. If you're building something too, hit subscribe and let me know in the comments what startup you think I should analyze next. Let's meet our players in this high stakes drama. On one side, we have Anthropic, a 100 billion AI powerhouse founded by former OpenAI employees in 2021. They are backed by Amazon with a 4 billion investment and are seeing explosive revenue growth, reaching a 4 billion annual run rate. On the other side, we have Anysphere, a much smaller but rapidly growing startup valued at 9.9 billion. They were founded in 2022 by MIT graduates and have just 60 employees, but they are generating an impressive $500 million in annual recurring revenue. Here is where things get interesting. Anysphere's main product, Cursor, which I personally use for coding, very impressive too. It actually depends on Anthropic's AI models to function. This creates a fascinating dynamic where they are both customer and competitor simultaneously. So this relationship is at heart of our story today. This diagram illustrates the paradoxical relationship between these two companies. Anthropic provides AI models via API, for which Anysphere pays millions in fees. Anysphere then uses these models to power Cursor, which is their main product, their AI coding tool. But here's where the conflict emerges. Both companies are now competing in the AI coding tool market with Claude Code and Cursor. So Anthropic now has Claude Code, which does or performs similar functionalities like what Cursor also does. The strategic positioning here is critical to understand. Anthropic controls the infrastructure layer with high margins, while Anysphere operates at the application layer with lower margins but direct user relationships. Platform companies like Microsoft integrate across layers for strategic advantage, which is why this battle is so important to watch. Now let's look at the financial impact. The financial stakes in this conflict are enormous. Looking at the revenue growth, Anthropic has grown from 1 billion to 4 billion in annual run rate, a 4 times increase in just 6 months. Anysphere has doubled from 250 million to 500 million in the same period. Impressive growth, but Anthropic is pulling away. The valuation gap is even more striking. Anthropic is now valued at 100 billion, while Anysphere sits around 9.9 billion, a 10x difference that creates significant power imbalance. This has led to cost structure tensions. Anysphere recently raised prices dramatically from $20 to $200 for their premium tier, blaming increased costs from Anthropic's API pricing. Users are revolting against these pricing changes, and the margin pressure from the supplier relationship threatens Anysphere's growth trajectory. The financial reality, or this financial reality, actually underpins all the strategic decisions we are seeing from both companies. What are the lessons that we learn from here? So my focus as an individual trying to understand all of these things that is happening is to pick up all the lessons that I can potentially leverage. As I said, my goal is to also build my own startup and build a well valued startup, you know. So I'm very curious about these startups and everything that is happening in there. So let's look at some of the lessons that we can pick from this story that we are discussing. There are three critical lessons that every startup founder should take from this case study. First, the platform dependency risk. Never become too dependent on a single supplier, especially when that supplier can become a competitor. Build switching cost and differentiation early to protect yourself. Second, the talent war reality. Key employees are strategic assets in AI companies. Institutional knowledge has measurable value, and retention strategies must account for competitive pressure. Looking at the risks assessment matrix, we can see how these factors play out differently for each company. Anthropic faces higher antitrust risks but lower supplier dependencies, while Anysphere, on the other hand, faces extreme supplier dependency risk and margin pressure. Third, the ecosystem complexity. Modern AI companies exist in complex webs of cooperation and competition. Strategic decisions must account for multiple stakeholder relationships, and success requires balancing short-term tactics with long-term positioning. These lessons apply far beyond just AI companies. They are relevant to any startup operating in platform-dominated ecosystems. Looking ahead, the AI coding market is projected to grow from 12 billion today to 70 billion by 2030, with consolidation increasing steadily over time. This is just like 5 years from now, and the difference is more than 50 billion increase. In the short term, we expect continued talent wars and pricing tensions between these companies and across the industry. In the midterm, consolidation through acquisitions and partnerships, which we have already started seeing, that Windserve was just recently acquired. So this is the trend that is happening. And partnerships are likely as companies seek to secure their positions in the value chain. Long term, we would see vertical integration across the AI stack as companies try to control more of their destiny. The key lessons for startup finance remain: one, never become too dependent on a single supplier. Two, talent retention is a strategic priority in AI. Three, balance cooperation and competition carefully. This story is still unfolding, and we will be watching closely to see how Anthropic and Anysphere navigate their complex relationship in the months ahead. Thank you for watching today's Startup Experiment Daily. If you found this analysis valuable, please subscribe for more insight into what's working in the startup world in 2025. Once again, I'm Ehonia Obed, your host, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video. Until then, bye for now.